I perfectly remember my beginning and the first time I sat in front of my prospect. Like most young, inexperienced salespeople, I was very excited at the same time, very nervous. I didn't know what to do, my hands were sweating, my thoughts revolved around things to say and what words to choose. I didn't know what works and what doesn't. Certainly, these were not my best meetings and I made a lot of mistakes. But if you start out, it's perfectly normal. To start acting naturally and time is needed. It cannot be learned from books, YouTube videos, anything, because some things happen independent of our will and we have limited influence and control over them. People acquire skills through experience, what means repetition. A beginner cannot be expected to be relaxed, witty and eloquent unless he has experienced his first failures and successes. This advice is just useless to him. It just won't happen. However, we have an influence of many things and it's worth sticking to the main rules and adapting the best habits right away, to use them instinctively later as they will be adapted and deeply rooted in the subconscious mind. In this video, I will start with things that affect how people see you, then move on to the more complex issues that influence building relationships and help closing a sale. So, please be patient. Let's start with the theoretically obvious thing, but causing confusion, especially nowadays when casual style dominates everyday life. I mean, the look and how you present yourself. Creating a good first impression requires dressing appropriately for the place and situation. I dress differently when meeting engineers on the construction site and then when I meet the president of the large company in his office. My advice: it's always a good idea to dress better than your client than the other way around. And I don't mean the brand of clothes and how much they cost. That's not the point. Dress modestly and look neat. That's all. An ironed shirt, clean shoes, elegant and simple. Contrary to popular belief, look matters. It's human nature to make judgment about someone who you just met. If you do it right, you look good, your prospect will more likely believe that you have everything under control and it's worth taking their own time to listen to you. No more, no less. Now let's move on to the most important matters. But before that, my name is Pavel. I've been in sales for over 15 years. I built a network of contacts and sales from scratch several times in my career on the European market for companies operating in the industrial sector. If you want to develop selling and social skills, you don't feel confident enough with cold calling and meeting clients, you want to know how to build instant rapport with the new prospect, quickly close a sales, monetize that knowledge and gain financial freedom, please subscribe and let's get started. There are 3 things need to be kept under control when you visit your client. Not only the first time, but always. The first one is smile. Smile is a sign of emotional intelligence. We are naturally attracted to people who exhibit traits of empathy. A good smile shows interest, confidence, and approachability. It should be subtle, expressing that you are a nice guy and who knows, maybe even trustworthy. The second is eye contact. Keeping good eye contact with the person you are talking to shows that you are actively listening, paying attention, and you are not intimidated. People who like each other look at each other longer. Depending on the country, it's 60% time of conversation when speaking, 80% when listening. Generally, building a good rapport with a new prospect and gaining his trust requires maintaining solid eye contact. It's crucial, but language, including tone of voice, largely determines the outcome of any business negotiations and sales meeting. And this is the third thing, because these are just 2 small pieces from a large puzzle. Research shows that the vast majority of what we convey when we talk to people is instinctive. Most experts who study the process of human communication believe that people mainly use words to convey information, but language to establish more personal relationship. When we see someone for the first time, we immediately and instinctively judge whether someone we have just met is nice, hostile, competent, intelligent, and sexually attractive. And this judgment is largely based on our feelings, and it all starts with the first eye contact, facial expression, and the way someone moves. I'm going to stop right here, because videos about the eye contact and body language can be found on this channel. It's a complex topic. There's no point to say everything here and now, so let's move on to the meeting. Avoid opening with business. Get to the point of your meeting right away. It's not a good idea. I personally believe it's even disrespectful. It shows you care more about closing a deal and hitting your own goals than you care about client's needs and his interest. Make sure small talk about the situation on the market. What you read doing your research while preparing for the meeting. Even about the weather. Whatever you think is right and intrigue you at the moment. The more natural and original it is, the better. About politics, who you like, who you don't like. Of course, I'm just kidding. The most important part of the sales is building rapport with your client. Small talk, the same as body language, is a powerful sign of emotional intelligence and indicator of higher value. The meeting is the culmination of all things you have done so far. It's worth keeping in mind that prospects tend to distrust salespeople. The fact that someone agreed to meet with you is already a good sign. Use that time wisely to verify your client's potential, to learn as much as possible about regular suppliers, decision-making process, what matters the most for your prospect, all this in order to be able to finally prepare the best possible offer and determine whether there are any other decision makers along the way with whom you should also meet. To do that, ask questions from the least invasive to more sensitive. If you start with overly sensitive questions at the very beginning, you will most likely not get any answer, and what's more, you will start to build a gap between yourself and your prospect. Therefore, caution and the ability to take a step back when the line has been crossed is a virtue. The most important rule and mistake that even professionals make is talking too much about yourself, your product, and your company. Usually, this is nothing more than a sign of nervousness and insecurity. Don't try to impress your prospect. The more you try, the more common you appear. Talk less, listen more, ask open questions, and make statements that push your prospect to reveal more sensitive information. The more relevant information you'll be able to collect, the easier it will be for you to close the sale in the future. Since the meeting is nothing more than the next step in the sales process. It's not uncommon that you will need to visit your prospect a few times before you'll be able to close a big deal, especially when we talk about mature, highly competitive market. Therefore, it makes no sense to put pressure on the client. The client must feel comfortable in your company. The greater pressure and tension, the less chance of building relationship and ultimate success. You have to give the impression of a person who is not a salesperson in the first place, but rather a sales consultant who has many options and possibilities. In other words, then you don't care about sales, but about professional service, customer satisfaction, and long-term cooperation. From a psychological point of view, the more someone pushes us to buy something, the less valuable we start to perceive that thing. Therefore, especially when you start job in sales, focus on your vibe, on being relaxed and building a relationship based on trust without putting pressure. Don't try too hard because you will get the opposite result. Finally, as I mentioned before, leave the door open for the next meetings, as you will probably need to visit your prospect a few times before he will open up and trust you. Find a good reason why another meeting is advisable, what is its purpose, and say when you would show up. To make the prospect a new client, you have to pay attention on two things. Good offer must meet your client's needs and requirements, and your client must be convinced that is the case. That's why it's important to gather information during the sales process. If your prospect doesn't need your product doesn't meet his expectation, technical requirements, pricing, whatever it can be, or he just doesn't believe in what you say, you won't close the sale. The second is less obvious, but that should be clear by now. Unless you are a monopoly in your market, your lead time isn't much shorter and your prices are not extremely competitive, you need to be liked by your client, or at least not arouse negative emotions. The same goes for your product and the company you represent. Good client relations are the key to success, as well as gathering information. And the sales meeting is the greatest tool for that purpose. Thank you very much for watching, and see you soon.